You've got a clapperboard?
Listen.
This is fancy.
It's so good.
I love optimizing and growing and nourishing. I like an eye mask. I'm now into earplugs. It's like a full shutdown situation. Real juicy sleep there.
Dear God, you are the poster girl of juicy sleep.
I did wonder if this would register.
Oh, tell me
I
more.
got an electric shock. And I thought, oh my God.
Yeah?
I literally bounced back off the lamp. And I let out a scream that I've never heard from me before, not even during childbirth.
It was like a grunt. So out of 100...
Oh, I think you built it up a bit too much.
Just a quick one. If you're enjoying the Energy Equation, please do like and follow wherever you get your podcasts. And if you leave us a review, we'll love you forever. Thanks so much. Angela Scanlon.
Hello.
Welcome to the Energy Equation, optimised by Pure Sport.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy. You are high on my list.
Look, I'm sorry it's taken so long, but I feel like today might be a good day for it, you know.
I think it's a great day.
Yeah.
We've got what we needed, data.
Eventually. I'm like, where do I plug it in? What button do I press? Honestly, it's like remedial level of, you'd swear I've never looked at anything tech in my life. Like, I like to think I'm quite proficient, but it turns out I'm not.
I would disagree. We've got good data. Actually, we've got 3 of the cleanest days of your data imaginable.
Really?
Yeah.
But what does a dirty day look like?
Well, actually, you get scrappy data. People take it off for periods of time.
Oh, no. When I'm in, I'm in.
I sensed that. And I think
I haven't washed for 3 days.
I also sensed that. The data is magnificent.
Okay.
It's because there's a backstory. We met each other at a wedding.
At a very intimate, small wedding. The setting was irrelevant once we started chatting, Ollie.
And actually, I felt a kindred spirit in all things, but in well-being.
Yeah.
And at that point, it probably wasn't as evident that you were very into health, well-being. Maybe in the public eye it wasn't.
Yeah.
But our conversations were from my memory, rich and abundant.
Listen, probably at that point I was more in my faddy phase, where I would, try anything. I've always been, I think, like quite health obsessed, and I love the idea of optimizing and growing and nourishing.
Yes.
That's maybe become a bit healthier in more recent years. In terms of approach.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always super interested in how I can be the best version. And also maybe I look around because consistency bores me to tears, which is obviously not ideal.
It can be a chat, but
Yeah.
there's elements we'll talk about today where I sense there has been some consistency.
Okay.
Because we're going to talk about your energy.
Great.
We've got this 3-day monitor that you've worn.
Yeah.
That's going to give me insights into how you manage stress and recovery.
Yeah.
How fit you are. I'm going to frame that in a bit.
Yeah.
And you're frowning, but I'm going to be smiling.
Okay. Oh.
And your quality of sleep.
Okay.
Across the 3.5 days you wore it. So, it's a snapshot, but it's an interesting snapshot.
And I would say, as snapshots go, in that 3 days, there's a lot on.
Oh, no kidding.
There's a lot on, and I don't know, we'll get into it, but I think previously and historically I have prioritized kind of work and output and maybe not paid as much attention or given enough space to social things and like life things. And so I have been really making an effort to prioritize experiencing life outside of work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm at this slightly salty edge where I haven't quite dialed down work in order to dial up social. So I'm now committed to everything. And the new me is determined not to be flaky and cancel all of the social things, which is what I would have historically done, prioritizing work over everything else.
No, that is a great insight. And there's a lot going on. But if that's indicative of life...
And my brain.
Yeah, then we can look at those as things. Are there any learnings in there?
I hope so.
I'm
here to learn.
Well, I want to start by, I've got a score out of 100, but you thinking on your energy, again, from the minute I've met you in my personal life to then following you closely, on your career, you do present as a fantastic, energized, person.
Funny.
Yeah, but
Yes.
in real life, as much as so I have the benefit of seeing both.
Yeah.
If we think of a number which gives us a framework between 100 being all the energy you could wish for,
Yeah.
and 0 an absence of energy in all forms, where do you average out?
I think I'm quite high.
Yeah,
up there.
wouldn't surprise me.
I
me a
mean,
number.
I'm going to say, I like a round number, so I'm going to say 88.
80.
Which is very round.
Is that a round?
Not round in the traditional sense, but there's 4 circles, technically. Maths is not my strong point, but I'm here for the energy, okay? So, yeah, I'm up there. Like, I actually think I understand energy more now. Previously, I thought I had an kind of endless well of energy. And I think I do relative to some people. I think I have kind of quite a deep source, if that makes sense.
It does.
And I'm very sensitive to it in other people and reading it and also leaking it or feeding from it. So I'm kind of quite conscious socially of how my energy is impacted. And that's been a learning for me, back to that kind of social versus professional, is actually recognizing the different sources of energy and the different modes in which I can go into, rather than just starting and going full throttle till I fall over.
That makes great sense. And that sort of energy givers, energy robbers is a sort of lifelong relationship. There's times when you can spend with both. And if you were to say, out of a brilliant score of 88, which people would crave in many ways, what would be the biggest single source of positive energy in that 88?
Ooh. Oh gosh, I don't know. What are the usual answers? Is this a multiple choice question?
I could give you. And, it's a blend, of course.
Yes.
But you've. I probably would frame that again in the fact that you have been a sort of well-being explorer. You would say fads. I would say exploring what works, what doesn't. From a sort of, clearly there's the big pieces. There's the family. There's the obvious pieces.
Yes.
From a behaviour point of view, what most props you up?
Okay, I think sleep is vital for me, and when I have a 2-year-old going on 3 and 6, going on 7. And my relationship with sleep, like, I genuinely was so frazzled in the early days of sleeplessness that I actually thought it would drive me mental. And so I really am quite disciplined around my sleep, because the impact of that and how I perform and how I show up in my tolerance for things and people, my ability to be compassionate with myself and everybody in my life is completely impacted by how much I sleep. Now, again, historically, I would think, I haven't got 8 hours, I'm going to fall over, I can't do my job, I can't do this, I can't do that. Yeah. My capacity, I think, has grown massively because I've had to do the job on 4 hours sleep, and I've recognised I can do the job on 4 hours sleep. I'll catch up later, I won't die. But in the ideal world, my sleep is ring-fenced. I, have a hygiene situation.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, and it's like all the stuff.
And I want all the stuff. Here is the safe place for all the stuff.
Okay.
And I think when we refer to sleep hygiene, we're talking about those actions and behaviours that prepare your physiology, your mind for sleep, rather than people's traditional view of hygiene, which is, the late night shower. You'll be scrub yourself.
Yeah, and clearly that's not something I'm
already
into.
heard. We've already heard your take.
Take a magnesium tablet, we're covered. Save the water. So magnesium is up there. Magnesium, lemon balm, holy basil. I like magnesium spray straight on the skin. I like a lavender on the pillow. I like an eye mask. I'm now into earplugs. It's like a full shutdown situation. Phone out of the room, hasn't been in there for, I would say, 7 years.
Amazing.
Yeah. Ideally, off the floor. Like, as in, not on the floor that you're sleeping on. So, it's ideally in the kitchen so that it's never within reach. Because sometimes, and I read something that, yes, you can be disciplined in turning off your phone, but if it's over there, you're aware it's over there, and you're aware that you're like...
It could be.
Yeah, you're kind of... It's like a little open tab that's now... It's in your peripheral vision, and you're aware of how much energy it takes to... What's the word? Resist.
100%. And that is true. If there's a perception of availability, you will disable deep sleep. Because deep sleep, you are unavailable.
Yeah, okay.
So if there's a chance...
100% unavailable. My husband loves it. He's like, fuck. Yeah, it's like a full routine.
So that, and
an earthing sheet, sorry.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So a lot of people won't know what that is.
So I don't really know what it is either. All I know is it really helps with my sleep.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a sheet that's got some sort of magnetic
It has an electrical charge.
An electrical charge.
Yeah.
And I sleep on that. And I also do rebounding for 3 minutes before bed to like settle my nervous system. I'm acutely aware now, I think, of my nervous system in a way that I wasn't before. It was shot to shit for years.
And that is a huge bit. And actually what we've measured here is that nervous system, which we refer to as the autonomic nervous system.
Well, you can tell me if if I am acutely aware of it.
I believe you are very aware of it.
Okay.
And I think on the earthing piece, that pulls you into, because some of your things are sort of solid, robust physiological science. Some of them are emerging. Some of them are what we'd call biohacks. Earthing works on the idea that humans have a certain charge, and the earth has a charge. And when those two things meet, we calibrate, if you like, and it decreases our physiological stress. So earthing sheets and mattresses replicate the natural electrical charge of the earth. Yeah. So it's a bit like grounding,
go outside and stick your feet in the muck, soil. Ideally.
Exactly. And you added that and you felt a benefit straight away.
I've actually had that for quite a few years, but again, on and off. And I went back to it. I was like, okay, I really want to get serious now about my sleep because, and it's help. I think it's the depth of sleep that I get.
Interesting.
Because I was quite... I would go to sleep. A lot of the time my mind is quite busy, but once I'm gone, I'm gone.
Yeah.
But I had a period where I noticed myself waking up and being right back in whatever thought I had held just before I slept. Yeah. So I was like, up here, I imagine I'm still... on.
Firing.
Yeah. I just found myself awake and going, I know I've technically been in bed for 11 hours.
Yeah.
But I feel like I have not rested mentally. And sometimes that is
still the case.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to the scores of our device. And then let's start with how it's measured your sleep and see whether some of these things match up. Because your sleep is the area of the three that I've measured that scores the least. And interesting that it's your better. But there may be reasons for that. Let the data do the talking. Okay. So your overall score, we rank over those 3 days how often your body was physiologically ready for stress, which is in many ways energy exertion, and how often your body's physiologically restoring energy, which is your body's balance of
okay, so this like battery. Rest and digest rather than fight or flight,
100%.
kind of.
So you've got that nailed. So we're talking here about a measurement of the autonomic nervous system, how often your internal physiology is prepared for some degree of fight or flight, which we call sympathetic activation. Okay. Green on the graph, when it was there, the beloved green. Mm-hmm. Then that is the parasympathetic nervous system involved in energy restoration, digestion, restorative behaviors, is the dominant part of your internal physiology. Okay. So thinking like a battery, when are you charging, when are you expending?
Yes.
And what is the relationship of that recharging to your sleep section? Yeah. And then separately, what was the quality of your exertion and how fit are you from a cardiovascular point of view? So let's find out. So out of 100. Okay.
Now is this
is all three together.
Comparing me against my 88 that I've just plucked.
Listen, that's you doing that. But if you were to compare the two, there's a slight difference. You scored.
Oh, lads, it's still round, but like there's one circle missing.
It still meets the traditional round number
fairly
of the mathematicians.
Good. I do not like to be judged as fairly good.
68 out of 100. Now, you're not fairly good. You're very good. But, your scores are 68.
It says fairly good
there. Well, don't listen to this. These are the Finns. They're very moderate.
Okay, yeah. They're quite hardcore, aren't they? Yeah, okay.
I'm really pleased with this. Because you are super busy. I'm going to tell you why it's not your 88 and why it's a 68 in a moment. Yeah. You'll see the three different scores there. So you'll see that your relationship between stress and recovery, you scored 72 out of 100, which considering how busy you are, is a great result. Okay. Your physical activity, which we didn't get huge amounts of exercise, but you are on the go. You're moving a lot. And actually there you got, was that 72? 74, sorry, I'm cheating out of 2, rascal. Okay. Then you got this slightly suboptimal 59. Yeah. So why sleep? Now the first thing with sleep. That's in sleep. Okay. And the reason for that is, again, if we look at your timeline across the different days.
There's one real juicy sleep there.
Dear God, you are the poster girl of juicy sleep.
But that middle sleep.
Any sleep brands.
Me.
It did. So we need to work out. Now,
I know why. I was socialising. I had people over. I had 7 people for dinner.
Well, each one of them should share the blame.
I'm absolutely livid. They're never crossing the boundary again.
But what is important with sleep is when we have the opportunity for good sleep, do we sleep well? And what we had is on Tuesday, let's call it Tuesday sleep.
Yeah.
Dear Lord, you went. What's great when we think about sleep hygiene, lots of those actions you're taking in the, ideally through the day, but certainly the last 90 minutes, 2 hours before bed.
Yeah.
So here we can see on the graph, you go into physiological recovery a good 2 hours before you go to sleep.
Okay.
So your body has decompressed.
Yeah.
It's let go of the idea. It's got to be ready for threat. It's go, go, go. And therefore, as soon as you fall asleep, you spend the entire night, which is really rare, in deep restorative quality sleep. We measure a metric called heart rate variability, which was sort of democratized. You've got super high HRV, which reflects your body is deeply
97 out of 100 for those of you who can't see the screen.
I was like, and 100 out of 100. That's if you said, Ollie, I can only wear it for one day, we'd be sat here, you'd be the poster girl of recovery.
Okay.
But then, so what we know is with the opportunity comes great physiology. And when someone has that chance to go to sleep and they lie in bed for an hour and a half and they're not sleeping, or they're waking up periodically, or that's when we start to question, can they get into recovery?
Okay.
Circumstance is circumstance. What we've got here is if we think of your physiology like an elastic band, it's fine for it to stretch. It's where does it come back to?
Okay.
And it's coming back to a fantastic set of results.
Okay.
So if that's the thing that's propped you up, that wouldn't surprise me. Now, when we compare it, of course, to the second nights, you suffer mostly from volume. And if we look at the pattern across the 3 nights, one night is a rather marvellous 9.5. I mean, Tuesday was outrageous.
I was so tired.
Well,
because I have been to India.
I mean, you've done a big thing. And this film is close to, you've just completed an unbelievable Himalayan yomp.
A yomp of sorts. Never heard that word, and I'm using it every day from now on. Yes, so I think maybe that did contribute to my KO.
Do you think the fatigue was still in there?
Yeah, I think I was, But I'll take it.
But it's sometimes, and again, when we're looking at sleep, and we love consistency. Why you scored poorly is your time to bed is different across the 3 nights.
Yeah.
Your time of waking across the 3 nights was different.
But
and
also,
your dinner
see the way
parties.
this says, what time is that at? Let me just pull up here.
Yeah.
Because
Late.
I was definitely in bed before. Oh no, I wasn't. That's right.
You were having it. This was your friends. You're burning the midnight oil there. So and again, everyone does that. But we have the same thing again.
I'm such a nana usually.
But then the other night, similar thing, right? So there you don't have your sleep hygiene, and actually it looks like you've done something relatively exertional, sort of late evening. Sometimes.
Okay. I did wonder if this would register.
Oh, tell me more.
I got an electric shock. And I thought, oh my God. And I did wonder whether having this on, I literally bounced back off the lamp. And I let out a scream that I've never heard from me before, not even during childbirth.
It was like a grunt.
I think I might have died. It was not cute. So I think that's...
Well, we don't have an option to add to the journal, electrocuted.
I know.
What a thing. Well, there you go. And, so your body has gone into,
Fear mode.
And that's what happens when people train late, eat late, or get electrocuted late, is they raise their core temperature, and that will often suppress your ability to get into deep sleep. So what you've got here is you didn't have that sleep hygiene, that transition, and then you're sluggishly in and out of recovery through the night.
Okay.
So that's more of a sort of traditional pattern, actually, where people are slightly got one eye on the world, etc.
Yeah.
What we've got to get back to is there's very few people who can deliver a Tuesday.
Okay.
Tuesday tells us that this isn't in any way an issue.
Yeah.
You've got the tools and the mechanisms to control it. So it's outstanding.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I think when you're aware and in touch with your ability to do that.
That's the key. Because no one can lead, the perfect life all the time. You need to say there will be social nights, there will be travel, there will be a Himalayan yomp. Yeah. But have I got when those things aren't happening, am I in control? And that looks very much in control. In fact, that day, we could cut and paste and say, this is short of having a good exercise session in there, which was missing, that's not far off a perfect day. These days, it feels like every brand is shouting about how supplements are the answer to everything. But before you jump into the latest wellness trend, it's worth remembering that the basics come first. Hydration, good nutrition, rest, and movement. These are the foundations of feeling your best. When you do decide to supplement, what you choose matters. My advice is to look for products that are free from additives, free from artificial flavors and unnecessary fillers. Personally, having seen lots of professional athletes using their products, I decided to try Pure Sport supplements. Their products are built on science, they're backed with evidence, they've got minimal ingredients, and they do what they're meant to do. Whether it's their ultra electrolytes to keep you hydrated and energized, or their unwind product to improve your deep sleep. I trust what they make is developed with care to work with your body, not against it. As you set your goals for 2025, remember, it's not about quick fixes. It's about small, smart choices that support your long-term wellness. Explore the full range of Pure Sport at their website, puresport.co, and discover the clean, natural way to feel your best. Use the code EE10 at checkout for an extra 10% off. So your sleep is the sum of the fact you have those control mechanisms, and so many of them, your sort of playbook, be that, magnesium has got good data behind it, particularly magnesium biglycinate, which is involved in some of the neurotransmitters of calm, but also a muscle relaxant. So it has a sort of double whammy effect of taking that tone out of the muscles. Yeah. It's also particularly involved in, I think, the GABA pathway, which is it calms the brain down. Yeah. And it's something most people are nutrient deficient in, truth be told, because there's not as much of it in our food as there used to be. So that's you basing lots of things around magnesium. I love that. That's good. Okay. But all those things are about clearing that mental inbox. And a bit like the phone, it's saying, if I have to be available to the world, I can't ever truly get to that. Yeah.
And interestingly, this night, I read a book.
Look at that. And that is why simple things are often utterly effective. Yeah. And I think from a sleep coaching perspective, flipping from tech to a book read is about as good as anything else. Yeah. So the fact you've got the tools there gives me great confidence.
Okay.
So
I feel like there's a but coming.
There's no but.
Okay.
But
exercise.
Well, let's go to stress and recovery as well, because that's
there's quite
relevant.
a bit of red in there.
There's a fair bit of red, and you're meant to spend most of our lives red.
Okay.
Because life is demanding. Yeah. When you're doing, if we had a monitor and you're doing presenting or or any of the multiple projects you're involved in, I'd expect you to be red. Yeah. Because you're thriving and under that condition. What we don't want to be is continually red. Okay. So we need that light and dark. And when we look at your pattern, what's interesting is most of your daytime recovery, which is a really important trait, seems to happen around sort of 9, 10 a.m.
After the school drop off. Classic.
I was like, what is that? Is that as the car door closes, you turn much. Entirely?
And sometimes I will, like if Roy does school drop off, I will literally out the door, and then that's like a slow morning for me. Yeah. And I try to really, the light in our bedroom is quite new to me. I'm like, oh, this is so lovely. I just sit there swaying for an hour. So yeah, I try to, I don't know what that is.
That's you find stillness.
Time.
Yeah. And when you have 2 young children, husbands, family, friends, busy career, slow time is a tough thing. Yeah. And actually there'll be a lot of people who say, I feel like I need that, but don't take it.
Yes.
And so in that period of time, because you can see on the graph, it's really great recovery. Yeah. Would you do anything in the sort of self-care bracket there, or just be?
So I spent a number of years, and I suppose I'm not off the wagon that long, but I really went in on meditation.
Amazing.
During lockdown, this is not sustainable or normal, but doing 2 hours a day probably.
Wow.
So I think there's a kind of, in that boot camp training in that period, I think what it has allowed me to do is, even though I absolutely am not there now, if I'm in a car, I'll try to do something, but I've kind of released myself from that level of expectation now.
Amazing.
But I think I can shift into, stillness in quite quickly now because of that.
You've trained
muscle
the muscle.
Memory, maybe.
You've trained the muscle. And which style of meditation? Was that sort of traditional transcendental?
I actually studied, I don't know if studied is the right word, but transcendental meditation probably 20 years ago.
Wow, that was probably still very Buddhist associated, very spiritually aligned. Yeah. So you were an early adopter.
And somebody recommended it, a woman I worked with recommended it to me. And And I did that for quite a while, and I may be the only person who did it twice because you're supposed to have the same word forever.
Yes.
And I do have the same word, but I did a reboot. But actually, a lot of the time it's more guided meditations, visualizations, breathing, really, like basically focusing on the in and the out.
How utterly good.
So like Dr. Joe Dispenza, love Muji meditations for something a bit more kind of traditional. It flits between kind of presence and properly grounding and being acutely aware of my breath and my arse cheeks on the chair.
Love it.
And then Dispenza, which is more, future kind of visualizations.
Really powerful. So you're sort of meditation tourist with the rocket. And actually the transcendental is, so lots of people won't know that. So the word you get given is this sort of Sanskrit word that you're never allowed to reveal to anyone, your mantra.
Yeah,
and I did a meditation course and I had to sacrifice a piece of fruit to get my word. Did you have to do that?
I did not.
Yeah, I slaughtered a papaya.
Stop. How
Yeah.
bougie.
And
apple. I'm like, papaya.
And it was whispered in my ear. And I couldn't quite hear what he was saying.
You're like, huh?
So I'm still not sure.
Tell me now.
Could you just write it down? And is that
your accent is not helpful there. Go again.
Is that a silent P?
Silent P. You got the wrong mantra, babe. There's definitely not a P in
to
there.
this day, the whole thing. But it, so then you use that word to bring your consciousness to a singular point. It
was a bit like, I suppose some people will think of like breath in, breath out, and you're focusing on the physicality of that. This is like your mind will wander and it's supposed to, like clouds in the sky, you are the sky, not the clouds, yada, yada.
Yes.
The mantra is an anchor point to kind of come back to, not in a like, fucking dickhead.
Yes.
Go back to your mantra.
You've forgotten it again. Is it a P?
It's so typical of you. It's more like, oh yeah, I forgot that. Back we go. So it's like a little lead on a dog.
And people would say, oh my God, how could you possibly do it for 2 hours? But that framework is that, you wander, then you come back, you wander, then you come back. And
I get with transcendental, and the thing that made it difficult for me was the 20 minutes is done 2 times a day. That's historically how they've done. But like insane levels of research around its, benefits and like what it does in prisons and in schools and everything. So it's not hippy-dippy. It's very science-based now, I think, or back at least.
And when I got into it when I started measuring the physiology of stress and seeing what an immediate mediator it was of state. So, to get more green on your graph is easier said than done.
Yeah, okay.
You've got this low intensity exercise in nature puts us into recovery.
So what, we talking like yoga in the forest?
Yoga in the forest or cold water swimming, those things are incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But breath
would they
and meditation,
not cause a spike and then maybe a green?
That's spot on. So what you get when you first go into cold is you get the cold shock response, which is red. So your physiology goes, and that's why as you then regulate your breathing, because of course your body thinks, how long am I going to be in this water?
Okay.
So it calms its physiology down to store energy, to save energy. So it's almost
there. That's why I did it. I'm just like, sure, you tell me it's good for me, I'll do it.
It's definitely good.
Like, is this good for me? I'll drink
That is great for you. So electrolytes, which I think you're a big fan of.
I'm a big fan of electrolytes.
Yeah. When did you get into electrolytes?
I used to have Diorite after a good night out.
Yeah, that's a rite of passage.
Exactly. But more recently, weirdly, it's for vanity reasons. So obviously like cellular regeneration, and I think we're vibrational, we're made of water, right? So if you're like parched little raisin cells, it's not good for business. And so, I think I was aware of the benefits of electrolytes, but also I'm like, all of the moisturizer, all the serums, if you're not hydrated from the inside out, you may as well you may as well piss it up against a wall.
You might as well.
Maybe it's not going to work. Let's get rid of that one.
The perfect analogy.
And I absolutely rate it. Love it.
And we're going to talk about your exercise in a minute. But that correlation. So again, the sodium, magnesium, potassium. These are things that we lose a lot in sweat. It's a goodie, isn't it?
Raspberry.
Salt. Really goodie. I love it. So, and I think more and more people are recognizing dehydration as that quick way to energy and potentially, again, that deficiency in electrolytes. So, and this is why, you have been on this sort of journey where I read your book, fastidiously followed you ever since.
Joyrider, FYI.
Joyrider, which is a great book. But it's a journey of self-compassion, really. It's a brilliant insight into the power of manifesting and how you use that as a tool in a scientifically robust way.
Because she's big on science, guys.
I think you look for the science.
I do. I definitely do. But I think you've got to. And I have this argument often with people, mostly my husband. And, usually the things that we come to believe in, people believed in without them being science-backed to begin with. So I really think, and maybe we'll get to this with my fitness. Yeah. In my head, I'm fit.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that just means that's enough. Based on, I just, because I used to be. and so it's weirdly quite part of my identity. Now, I don't know whether that has an impact on whether I look fit on this bloody thing, right? But I did do a Copperfield trek. I know you alluded to it. Which involved trekking in the Himalayas and at quite a tilt and pace, and I had done nothing. Yeah. And it was fine.
You coped with it well.
I absolutely loved it. Now, I don't know whether that's an Irish mountain goat within. I quite like the idea of a challenge, an A to B, very clear path.
Yeah.
But I thought I would be completely destroyed by it, and I was absolutely.
You nailed it. I've got a reason why.
Go on.
I've got a reason why, which pivots us out of recovery. Well, let me just wrap up recovery. In fact, you get.
So do I need more of it?
No, because I think again, in the same ways you've got the tools to manipulate sleep to your advantage. You know what the rules are.
Yeah.
You've got arguably the strongest mechanism of driving daytime recovery, which is the ability to find stillness, to deliver some of the multiple self-compassion techniques you've had. And you can always look at those things and go, they work on two levels. On one level, are they just turning you into green? They're turning you parasympathetic. On another level, are they targeting your energetic pathways? Are they targeting a chakra, a meridian? And we don't know those to say that's definitely true or not true. But I can say this is, and that's totally fair. Yeah. That people who've lived experience of these things will know that they potentially work through mechanisms we can't explain.
Yes.
Yet.
Yeah. Yet.
So, but I can always explain them through this and give them validity because they'll definitely be turning you into a calmer energy restoration state, which is brilliant.
And it's interesting that you mentioned self-compassion as one of the things that you pulled out of the book, because it was kind of, pinned around gratitude. And I think self-care, I was very much in that space, and self-care, what is that and what does it encompass, and is it a bath? And, I love a bath, but...
Yeah, it needs to be more.
Yeah, what I felt was I was doing all of the right things. They looked right.
Yes.
But I was also in, my expectations of myself were a lot. Yeah. And that kind of internal voice. So I could tick a bath off, but it wasn't, that's not enough if you're kind of berating your output or whatever else. Yeah. So I think I've definitely shifted to, and even with the meditation stuff, it's been quite a big leap for me to not... I was so good at doing this. I used to do this all the time. I've fallen.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, actually, sometimes it may be sitting outside the school and breathing.
Spot on.
And that's a big one for me. Is okay, I'm about to go into a meeting. I'm going to just come in for 2 seconds, put my phone on my lap.
Yep.
Doesn't need to go in a bag. It doesn't need to be in another room. And actually concentrate on my breath for a minute.
Absolutely superb. And better is better. And these things aren't binary. Every action is that vote for yourself. And again, the gratitude piece coming out of your book is palpable. And what a powerful tool that is.
Mm-hmm, totally. Perception and just shifting your ideas about what you have versus what you don't have. I mean, and there's a pressure on it because you kind of talk about it in a way that you're cured and then you're not. And so I have to hold myself accountable as well and bring myself back to that regularly, because I think I tend to look around a lot and often feel like I'm coming up short in, all areas of my life. And I read a thing by Venus Williams the other day, a quote, and it was like, more sports focused, which, as you can tell, is not necessarily the thing that resonates.
I'm going to rebuke that in a minute, but keep going.
But she was talking about the goal, like her goal and kind of not looking at who else is in the literal other lanes, totally. Not looking around and not comparing yourself and all of that stuff, which, we know we shouldn't do.
You only ever rent fitness, you only ever rent nourishment, you only ever rent sleep, but you also only ever rent gratitude.
Yeah.
You only ever rent stillness. They are, it's what I sense from you is that you've got those tools to pull the right thing out at the right time. Yeah. And we all have to catch ourselves when we slip. Yeah. And it's saying, okay, I've slipped a bit, I caught it. Yeah. It's exactly the same as meditation. I know that's the mantra is my center point. Yeah. But I will drift, but then I can come back to it. And
I think this is the thing. It's the confidence in knowing that you can come back. It's the awareness of knowing that you have drifted. And I think for me, I was very binary. I was either all in and I was like, it was a full-time job and I was the best at meditating. And then I'd leave it and go, okay, I'm not doing that. So I'm going to go full in the opposite direction. Like I didn't do it this morning. Therefore that's done.
I'm not a meditator.
I'm not a meditator.
And that you've softened and now. Brilliant.
Totally. And I kind of go, okay, it's fine. It's not going to last forever. Any state that I'm in is not going to last forever. And so I'm kind of gentler and also more confident in my capacity to recover, to bounce back from whatever, stress or sleep deprivation.
Amazing. So good. And another thing that will help with that is fitness.
Oh, no.
Listen, I've already told you, 74 on the scores. And that was before, so I had to run 2 tests to get your fitness. I needed a 360 view.
Okay.
So the first thing, you are active, and you can always judge fitness partly by capacity and the fact, okay, if you've managed to achieve, the Copperfield, trek, we know that you are fit.
Stubborn and determined.
Which is a major part of fitness, by the way.
I guess.
Major part. But interestingly, why we align fitness with a discussion about energy is cardiorespiratory fitness, your ability to consume oxygen, has a big role on people's general day-to-day energy and fatigability.
Okay.
So that's what I'm checking. So we can look at fitness in terms of how strong are you. We're not measuring that. Okay. We can look at fitness in terms of how flexible and coordinated are you. We're not checking that.
How quick you can do a 5K.
Now that does tie to this. We're looking at the system that would enable a 5K or a 10K or a marathon. It's again, the cardiovascular system is a bit like your aerobic or your endurance system.
Okay, and delusion doesn't come into that.
It has limited impact on your physiology.
Because I'm like, literally, I could do a 5K tomorrow.
Well, I'm going to tell you. And again, there's more nuance to a 5K in terms of can your joints handle it?
No, but that's fine. I've done it.
Separate that.
I've shared it on Instagram.
But you've got the engine for a 5K.
Okay.
Unequivocally. Okay. I'd actually say you've got the engine for a 10K. So I measured VO2 Max.
Okay.
A parameter that gets a bit in the public eye at the moment because it's increasingly been proven to be the best single predictor of how long people will live.
Oh dear.
Which makes sense. No, again, I wouldn't build it up like this if yours was terrible. Okay. And your result is...
And you're fucked.
We're on a ticket.
Say goodbye, say your goodbyes, babe.
We may not get out of this room.
Sorry. Okay, go on. So what you're saying, the ability to convert oxygen to energy.
Pretty much. So your ability to use oxygen is a combination of every key system, your lungs, your heart, your blood vessels, the little, again, batteries in your cells, the mitochondria. Okay. So it's like a system overview. Now, it's a parameter that gets hijacked by performance sport because it can be indicative of who might, be ready for an Ironman or do a marathon. Okay. But it's super interesting across the spectrum because if it's too low, then it would interfere with your ability to go through complex surgery. And it's ultimately you and I are living on oxygen. This is how good you are at getting that oxygen to your tissues and getting rid of the carbon dioxide once you've used it. Okay. So we measure it in something called milliliters of oxygen per kilogram per minute. What we're really after is for you to be, again, if I'm thinking of, ages, stages, all those things, I want you above 32 milliliters per kilogram. I would have loved you to have been over 40. Okay. So 40 is our number that we say, look, that's someone who's got good physiological fitness. Okay. 45, you're into really good, that should be 10K capability. I feel
excited. But what's the ceiling?
Well, the ceiling, and it gets sort of weird, but really if you get into the 50s, you're a superb athlete.
Like Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt wouldn't have a good one because he only has to run. So he would be power and speed, but not endurance. So Usain Bolt wouldn't enjoy a 10K, and he would very much not enjoy it.
Okay.
So your
So does
Tour
that
de
mean
France
he
cyclist,
couldn't have surgery?
His won't be bad. It just won't be good, and it may not be a million miles from yours. Yeah. So again, this is the framework. Angela Scanlon, 43.5.
Oh, I think you built it up a bit too much. I was like, 55, she loved... Okay, 43, but what's you saying? I'm joking. Okay, 43.
43.
And you were looking for 40.
I was looking for I was hoping for 40. I was on your training volume because,
Or lack of.
Well, you know, actually online, you don't document your exercise particularly.
Because I don't do it. I mean, if I was doing it, I would document it, truthfully.
If a tree falls in the forest and it doesn't make a sound.
Exactly.
Again, I thought there might be a blind spot that you're training secretly. You've got a secret Strava account.
No.
The reality, that's a really good fitness level. Now, we may have had a boost from the fact that you've been in
electric shock.
The electric shock.
Boom!
Wednesday's electric shock.
She's on the treadmill
like the Flash.
at full tilt.
There's no evidence that being electrocuted improves VO. I did say that as a caveat. Someone will be out there charging themselves in their car battery. But the principle being, it's a really, really good result. And actually, given your training volume is not high, it reflects probably that inherent bias you have that I feel like I'm quite fit.
Yeah.
And the evidence here is you are really fit. Now, when you look at things like government guidelines that say you should do 150 minutes of cardio a week, it doesn't know who you are. What I know is, based on your training history, your active lifestyle, you are as fit as you need to be.
Okay.
Unless you have an incentive to be fitter.
Okay. Interesting.
And I think that's the pursuit of more doesn't need to be there. You are busy. You've got lots going on. Do you suddenly need to go and dedicate yourself to getting 10% increased fitness? I would argue there's absolutely no incentive for you to be any fitter than you are now.
Okay.
Unless you were saying, well, the pressure needs to come off, and you can't be all things. You're doing a lot. What we've got here is an extremely busy life with sleep as its anchor and your ability to manipulate your physiology, mind and body into calm as a major tool in your toolbox. Yeah. And at the moment, your physical activity seems exactly enough to keep you functioning.
Yeah, keep you functioning.
Keep functioning, but and not
keep you from keeling over.
But there's that principle. You're 88, right? So we start with the idea you are high energy. You're 88, which means amazing.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be looking for incentive to change.
Oh, sorry, no, but I don't think I am 88. I think that was my number.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Oh, fine.
Yeah,
okay.
But your number is my number.
Fine. But then you gave me a lower number.
Yeah, but that's 3 days. And what we don't do is we don't change how you feel based on that data.
Okay.
That's the crucial bit. And here's that sort of like, there's a lot of people who wake up today, check their watch to ask how they feel.
So, I had a whoop for a while.
Okay.
I was like, I woke up, I had an awful sleep. And suddenly that informs how I feel about my capability for the day, how my energy's got, oh my God. And by the time I hit 12 o'clock, so there's no clock in the room. I don't, in the middle of the night, check, it's 3 o'clock. I get up early, I do a breakfast show weekends, so I'm up first thing.
Yeah,
and again, I used to feel quite anxious about the anticipation around the alarm clock going off. And now I'm like...
That's a beautiful release. And I think those people, there's a great challenge to asking technology how you feel.
Yes.
And that requires discipline and boundaries. And I like data to inform decision making, but the minute it's driving your feeling, it's wrong. So we aren't taking the 68, we are taking the 88, and we're seeing if there's anything in the 68 that we can learn from.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a reflection of the fact you have control, and that is, for me, all that you can ever ask. Because if we get the best 3 days ever, but you don't know why, then that's less useful than having a moderate 3 days, but you know exactly what the triggers of the poor bits are, and you know what the control over the great bits are. And that's, when with this pod, we're trying to give people your best tools that they can deploy into their lives. And I think your ritualism around sleep and that sleep hygiene set of rules, be that the magnesium, be that lavender, be that sprays, be that stuff. But all of that is telling your brain you can let go of today, and you can be free from that I have to during the night.
And interesting, I think ritual actually is kind of, outside of sleep, is probably what I have in that 9 to 10 hour of recovery is kind of what I try to create in little pockets is a kind of, and I think ritual serves to slow things down and allow you to be in the moment, I guess. And that's kind of,
that's good. The dream. That's as good as we can wish for.
Yeah.
So, if we were to summarize this, you are a high energy person in all ways, and your scores reflect that. 88 isn't 100, but anyone comes in claiming 100, that's also a challenge. So there's always that room for a little bit better. But juggling 2 young children, home, huge diverse career, doing all these different things, has meant that you've just found a whole range of different forms of self-compassion, decompression, and don't behold yourself to this idea of I need to do more, certainly in the fitness area. I'm telling you that what you're doing actually looks really fab and is a great template for others to follow.
Oh my God, this is a revelation. I actually feel so, because weirdly I've always kind of had that, this big piece missing, and yet I've never felt it. So in theory, I haven't gone to the gym in a while, like a good while. It's this time last year I've finished Strictly, and that's the most exercise I did since I've had the girls. And look, I suppose I have a kind of, not a hang up, but I approach exercise maybe a bit more gently than most because I had an eating disorder for 15 years and exercise became part of that. And so I kind of sometimes think, is exercise good? I haven't quite managed to flip it where exercise is totally safe place for me, if you like.
That's really well put. And you've spoken beautifully about that eating disorder and shared a lot that in the book, but also recently on some programs which have helped a lot of people. And it's that changing of exercise from, it can often be that punishment, it can be that
grueling
mediator. You need to continue to enjoy being active, but there's no desire for you to be fitter. You're fit enough. And if you feel 88 and you feel strong enough to climb a Himalayan mountain and you've got the ability to do all the projects you're doing, then there's no need for more here. There's just, a sense of you are doing brilliantly and a great example. Well, that brings us to the end of the
Honestly, I'm so thrilled because I knew I'm literally going home to Roy and I'm telling him, because that idea of like exercising as a release can be more cortisol flooding your system with more. It just feels like a very, sometimes, I don't know, like a kind of aggressive status symbol. Like it just feels, quite punishing, I suppose. And after I had my children, I was like, do you know what? This body has actually done a lot of good stuff for me. And I'm going to be a little bit more gentle in my approach, whether that's like yin yoga or Pilates. Those are the things that I would now go to when I do.
Fabulous.
So it's a bit more about strength and stretch rather than like whacking myself around the head.
And connection. And I think, again, that you've come to where you need to come to. So, you don't need what others need. And exercise, like all other things, is a tool to be used at the right dosage and the right time. And your current dosage is sufficient without a shadow of a doubt. You've just climbed a mountain. So
nailed it.
So I'm going to say, Angela, you are a high energy example, and it's been an utter joy to get you finally onto the pod. I'm so pleased you came in.
Thank you so much. Honestly, this has been very enlightening and insightful and a lot of fun. Thank you.
So good. My joy. Thank you.